Good afternoon, everybody. So today I wanted to talk about the narcissist and the demon attachment. Why they need the empath, or why do they need you? When you're dealing with demons, you're dealing with something that is essentially dead. And it doesn't really produce energy. When now you have a narcissist, which is a person of humanity that at some point had the ability to create their own fuel, be it a low fuel. Because if you have just negative type energy, meaning you live in a low vibration, you're going to be living at a low level of energy. That's what comes along with that. Because when you're depressed and anxious and all that and paranoid all the time, and this is how they were before they were possessed, that they were running out of little energy to begin with. Everybody starts out along the same pathway, right? We're born at a certain level in humanity as far as fuel level and everything. We have the same gifts, but we have maybe different talents. And then from there, decisions we make based on sometimes our environment. There's an environment component, but there's also an innateness in your spiritual component and decisions and choices that you make. But that all kind of gets back to your innateness. Now, those are things that control the level of fuel that you can generate. When you get to a low enough vibrational level, you get to, well, the narcissist can never get past the 180 mark or the 199 mark, because it would take courage to look at themselves and to do some work and to accept that this is who they are. And that's one thing. I mean, if you could first accept who you are, you can work on it. The narcissist doesn't, they refuse to do that out of fear. So they block it with pride, and then they fall back down to shame. They wake up at shame every day, at the level of shame, which is a 20, the bottom of this cone. And it actually widens too. So not only are you vibrating higher as you elevate on this vibrational chart based on the way that you live in humanity and the way you perceive yourself, but it also widens. So you get more fuel or more happiness and joy and peace as you get higher on this chart. It widens, it spreads out. And whenever you meet the narcissist, they're at like this shame level. You pull them up to pride. And if you ever seen like a car at 100 and it can't go any faster, or something like a dial, it's just stuck there because it's giving you all it's got. Well, we get the narcissist up to a 199. It's like the dial's all the way up and it's at 199 all the time. You know, it's like you can't do anything else. So we keep them at like a 199, but they'll never get to a 200 because they're not to a level of consciousness at this point in time. I believe it's because they gave up on love. And when you give up on love, you don't have courage either. So there's a lot that goes down when you lose love. Everything goes with love. Anything good in life and humanity, anything having to do with God, stems from love, y'all. So they get to a pride level and they'll stay there until they fall back down to shame. And that's why pride, it says in the Bible, comes before the fall. It's very interesting. So my point is they get to this such a low level, in my opinion, because they all coincide. So your thoughts and actions, your feelings, your spirit would decide where you are on this vibrational chart. So they get to a point where they believe and live at this level. And this level is what I believe is an open door for demonic activity to enter. So there's different ways that you can open doors to demonic activity, getting into witchcraft or seances and stuff like that. Yes. But also, if you get to such a low level, you're almost at the level of a vibration of a demon. This is what happens. They get to a low level and then the demon enters. Well, the demon is dead. I mean, it doesn't really produce energy either. So now this is why you find the narcissist that's running all over the place with all these supply sources, because they couldn't barely produce enough energy, and they call it fuel, is they're running around because now they have these entities in them and they can't produce energy. The narcissist can barely produce energy, so they have to get people to react and steal it. The best way to do it is through your emotional field. It's the easiest way, and they're always the path of least resistance because they're also lazy. Both are. Both the demon and the narcissist, they're lazy because it takes work to be good. When you lose love, you lose all of these things. When you get low enough, you open a door to demon possession, because this is now what your soul and your mind and your will and emotions believe. You believe this low level of vibration that you're on. You believe the lie, basically. Or you're in agreement with it and living in it. And that's what would pull you down as well. What the narcissist is sent out to do is to find people with higher levels of vibration and to pull them down. So that's how they get their fuel. I do believe that these narcissists who are housing these demons that have complete control over them, so they're the ones that are running things, right, in their life, they are able to look out, see these lights like that. It's a twofold thing. It's like they're attracted to it because they can feed off it and they can harass it. But also it kind of has an irritating effect to them. So they want to put it out as well. Because what the enemy is all about is winning. And that's what you'll find the demon is about too. It's about winning. That's what you'll find the narcissist is about, winning. At the end of the day, it's winning. You know, power and control is for the win. The fuel is for the win. But that's all in the activity of winning and losing, right? That's it. And so I wanted to get into this a little deeper because they're at a low vibration. And this kind of starts when a child gets childhood wounds, or they start to believe a certain way, or somebody tells them things daily over time, and they start to believe it. But there's also their innate ability, meaning you're born as an individual. And I do believe that you may have heart, you may not, meaning you're going to find your way. You're going to fight regardless, and that you're going to be a believer in God. So these are all come down to decisions that we make, but I think a lot of times it culminates into what we incur into our fruition is really all what we were to begin with in the end. I don't know if that makes sense. So basically that vibration I was talking about is kind of like if you get on a vibrational level to where you gave up on love, you have no love, then that's a complete open door for the enemy to come in. And that's kind of what I'm saying. And this is where possession would take place. But I wanted to let's go over the fruits of the spirit, okay? Because this is something that I've spoke on a lot, and I don't know how much y'all know about this. So there's about 9 of them. I'm going to go over what we represent and what the narcissist represents. These things are a part of us, and we're trying to perpetuate these things in our life. So you have love, you have joy, there's peace, there's patience, there's kindness, there's goodness, there's faithfulness, there's gentleness, and there's self-control. And this is why I tell you that when you have no love, that if there's anything that would determine if somebody was demon possessed, this would be it, y'all. This would be it. Because when you have no love, you have no joy, you have no peace, you have no patience, you have no kindness, you have no goodness, you have no faithfulness, no gentleness, or no self-control. Now you got to tell me, like, when you lose love, you lose all of these, because it is the principal piece. It's the pinnacle of this whole thing. So what happens when they go through this possession and stuff? What do you find in a narcissist? What are their traits? What are their characteristics? Well, instead of love, they have lack of empathy. So that was replaced. Instead of joy, they're miserable. Instead of peace, they have chaos. Instead of patience, they have impulsivity, and they're very sensitive. I mean, not sensitive in a good way, sensitive to fly off the handle. Instead of kindness, they have arrogance. Instead of goodness, they have envy. Instead of faithfulness, they are exploiters of good individuals. They're exploitative. Instead of gentleness, they're harsh, angry, and rageful, and they're abusers. And instead of self-control, they're totally controlled. But they are people of self-importance, to add to that. They're resistant to change. They are people of entitlement. Instead of humility, they are grandiose. Instead of freedom, they're all about power and control by any means necessary. So I wanted to go over this because this really sets the stage on really what you're dealing with. And what does the enemy do that's inside the narcissist? They try to get the narcissist to break down all of these fruits of the spirit in you. You see? Now this is true spiritual warfare. They break down your love. They corrupt, right? If they can corrupt these things in your life, then they can control you or break you down enough to where your light's put out as well. And when you consent to it, right? You consent to going into a covenant with them by a relationship, by intercourse, by your time, and by allowing your fuel to be stolen from you. And to allow your fuel to be stolen is because you're accepting their abuse and you're accepting their energy. You're absorbing their emotions through guilt. So that's what you'd call guilt tripping. And that's what the narcissist does a lot. So they attack these traits. They find an empath that is highly based in these traits and they knock them down to the ground. They steal it, attack you, use these traits to abuse others and to manipulate and to subdue others, to convince others, to allure others in. This is why sometimes they look so good if they're wearing empathic fuel, or somebody that has had all of these traits at a high level and they stole them from them. Well, then they're going to be very, very seductive. That's why sometimes you would say that the narcissist, well, they just seem different. You had intrigue. Well, sometimes the intrigue is because they're demonic. They have demonic entities in them. So that could be some of it. The other part is they're probably wearing somebody else's fuel when you're seeing them. And then they have no love, so they have to fake it. So all of that put together kind of gives you the intrigue that you're probably seeing, but it doesn't mean it's good. The narcissist looks for 6 traits when they get a primary source of supply. Those traits that the narcissist is drawn to are: 1, feeling responsible for others, somebody that can feel that it's their job to always be responsible for what their love partner is doing and how they feel. Number 2 is to deny or sacrifice their own emotional needs. So basically become self-sacrificial to do everything for the narcissist. And number 3 is highly empathetic. You're less judgmental, and that's why the narcissist likes it as well. You're not going to judge them as hard. Or number 4, they look for a person that promotes the image they want to project. So you're going to believe the mask. You're going to believe the false image, meaning you stand right behind it. What goes on in the house, nobody knows about, and you will keep it a secret. That's promoting the projected image. It's always all about them. So you just continue to promote their false image. When you don't address things with a narcissist, you're projecting their false image. Number 5, prone to guilt. So they will guilt trip the heck out of you. This is something that we can be easily drawn into, and this can really pull an individual down, this guilt tripping. But what they do is they get you out of your environment. In most cases, they isolate you. They take away everybody good in your life. And then there's no joy, no peace, no patience, none of that coming from them. They just faked it in the very beginning. They faked the fruits of the Spirit. And then they throw all of this guilt and shame on you. And they knock you down out of love, out of joy, out of peace, out of patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control, to the point to where you almost look just like they do in the end if you stay with them. 6 is they look for someone with a complex self-esteem, meaning you can have a high self-esteem, but you could have a pocket of low self-esteem. And the narcissist can see this pocket of low self-esteem that hasn't been dealt with, and so they'll exploit it. And this is the same with the narcissist. They generally, though, have a low self-esteem, and their high self-esteem only comes from the demon inside of them that pumps them up through all their manipulations. And they're beating you down and breaking you to pieces. They're getting joy off of this, sadistic. And this is where they feed. They feed better off the negative fuel than the positive fuel. They say the positive fuel is to promote the narcissist's false self, and then the negative fuel is to promote the narcissist for real. They're who they are, what they really believe. I would say that's probably true, but that's also like where the demon would be. They're intertwined in the soul. I wanted to talk a little bit about self-esteem. So you have in self-esteem, you have appearance, you have intelligence. So in your self-esteem is how you see yourself and how you feel about yourself and how you think about yourself and what others think about you, your identity. So it has to do with self-image. So you have the physical appearance, how attractive you are, you feel you are. It's more of what you believe, regardless of these things, right? It's what you believe. So you have your physical appearance, how attractive you feel, or unhealthy you are, your psychological personality, or how happy you are, and your personality, how you see yourself, how you feel it for yourself, and then how you see others view it. Your thoughts about your beliefs of how they view you. Your intellectual, how close are you to your ideal self? And then 4 is skills. What skills do you have and how others perceive you? And then 5 is your moral abilities, your ethics, and how you are living based on what you believe ethically and how others view you. Your sexual, which would be your ability to see yourself between masculine, feminine, and where you balance out and how you feel about all of that. But where sometimes you have a problem is you can't separate between who you were in the past, who you are in the present, and who your vision of who you want to be in the future. Don't take the past you and blend it in with who you are now, because that would be a defeat. And so this is where people get their identity, who we believe we are, and what you tell others you are, and what you tell yourself you are. I bring these up because these are things that get attacked and you get broke down if you're with evildoers, but also it affects your fuel level as far as your performance. I wanted to go over your self-esteem and your self-image and your identity, because if you want to make change in your life, they're going to stem from some of these aspects. So if you want to increase how you feel, you have to look at things objectively and not to get them twisted. You may have the wrong thoughts in your mind as part of it. If you're putting your past and your present and your future and mowing it all together, or your past, if you're still worried and concerned about your past, it's over. And if you've gotten over that guilt or that shame and you've gotten forgiveness for it, or you've straightened out those crooked paths, then let it go. You only use it for a reference. But you may have some of these thoughts that are twisted, so you got to fix some of these thoughts. Maybe it would be as simple as that. Just change your thinking now that you have the information. The other thing would be working on these things would help you to reverse, say, anxiety or depression if you're dealing with it as well, which would be a huge thing for some people. So the narcissist, they're hyper-vigilant about their self-image, and this is the foundation upon what the narcissist's outward behavior is. Their actions and their expressed words is built on their self-image, which is these things that I just spoke on. The narcissists seek in a love partner who makes them look good and supports their false image. They support the image they wish to convey to the world, and they're akin to the calculated and transactional way the narcissists get their needs met. They accept it. And the partner is selected. You see, it's not that they fell in love with you, they selected you. They targeted you, selected you because you would work the best for them. It's because they don't love you. But you are an object. You are value that's added to the narcissist, that's all. So I also wanted to talk about, in Matthew 13:24 through 43, it talks about the wheat and the tares. And it talked about, it's a parable about the man who sown his wheat, and then when he slept, it said the enemy came in and he planted the tares amongst the wheat. Or once the wheat was starting to come up, they saw the tares mixed in and they wanted to pull them up. But the owner said, don't pull them up unless you pull the wheat up as well. And so they don't want to do that. So then let's let them grow into fruition and then we'll separate them. Because wheat and tares look the same. If you look at wheat in a field, while it's growing, it looks exactly like a tare. A tare is like a weed or a piece of tall grass. And wheat looks like the same thing when it's coming up and it's young. But what you will find is that wheat, it bears fruit, the seeds of the wheat at the top of the stalk. And what you'll find also is tares do that too. They have seedlings, but they're much lighter. And they're just seedlings to plant more grass or weeds. Okay, so they're not really doing anything. They don't bear fruit. And this is what the Lord is talking about. That when the wheat gets full of its fruit, its seedlings, it starts to hang over because it's heavy. It's burdened down with fruit, y'all. And this is what the tare will not do, because their seedlings are very light. They look similar, but they're very light, so they continue to stand up. And that's how you would separate wheat from tares in a field. But what's interesting is, if you think about it, the wheat bow down to the Lord, and they bear fruit. The tares, they stand up straight because they're pompous and froward, and they don't even have any fruit, y'all. And when you harvest wheat, you would take it all and you would bundle it up. And what you do is you would bang it against a stone, and it would cause the seedlings to drop out. And then what's left is just the wheat stalk, which is pretty much a tare at that point. There's nothing left. And then the weeds that were mixed in. and then they get thrown into the fire because there is no, the whole Tare gets thrown out. It's just in the way. So when you see the evildoer in the Bible, they are the Tare. They refuse to bow down, and they bear no fruit. They're pompous and they get burned up. The point to all this is that they grow up amongst you. They could be people you would call or claim your best friends, your family, your relatives, your love partners. They look like you, but they're not you. And so you got to be careful. But it's kind of like saying that you're going to go through some beatings down here, like when they knock the wheat against the stone to get the seedlings out, the fruit. You're going to get a little beat up down here, but you're going to produce good fruit from it. Sometimes going through things and living in reality helps you to produce more fruit later. And they lost everything when they buried their love. And they're wicked and slothful. They're lazy because the things that motivate them are evil and they bear no fruit. They're grandiose, exploitative, entitled, and believe that everybody else needs to work for them, cater to them. They just lie, steal, cheat, manipulate, and they're time wasters. So that's all I have for you today. I hope this helps somebody out there. Until next time, soldier, peace, we out.